Aloha everyone and welcome to Skincare with Hiram. If you don't know who I am, my name's Hiram and I'm here with the one and only Alyssa Grenfell? Is it Grenfell?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Alyssa, she is an absolutely incredible content creator who makes videos specifically about Mormonism, which might seem super random, but if you're a longtime subscriber of my channel, you know that I used to be Mormon and I have a lot of lived experience in the church, and she makes absolutely incredible videos about it. I'm so glad we're able to film this video together. I'm super excited.
Thank you for having me. Even if you have no knowledge at all about Mormonism, I feel like I get so many commenters saying that it's their current hyperfixation. Because once you start digging into Mormonism, you realize you're gonna fall into the well. Like Alice in Wonderland. So.
Yeah, no, it's truly fascinating, even from an outsider's perspective. And your videos are incredible to watch and just like geek out about Mormonism. I really wanted to bring you on my channel to kind of like talk about not only our experiences being raised Mormon, what that's like, but also the intense beauty and perfectionism culture that's present within the Mormon church. And I want to do it as we do our skincare routines. This is going to be one of my self-care Sunday videos. So we can jump into the skincare routine. Oh my God, am I going too fast? Just disclaimer, there might be a little bit of judgment and criticism, but
I know.
I'm a
skincare novice. TikTok has given me some information.
Yeah, okay, good.
I hope I do okay. So I usually start with micellar.
Okay. Micellar.
Micellar.
Yeah.
Now I know. Cleansing water.
I've recommended this one a lot.
Okay.
My recommendation is that they make reusable cotton rounds that you can just throw in the washer and infinitely reuse. Okay. I am going to just go in with a face mask. This one is one of my favorites. It's the I'm From Honey face mask from Korea. Oh wait, tell me a little bit about your skin first of all. Like, what's your skin type, skin concerns?
I don't know. I feel like I kind of have oily skin.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit. But I also sometimes just like to tell myself that I'm like having glass skin when I have oily skin. I just gaslight myself.
Yeah, I was going to say gaslight yourself into believing. Well, glass skin is very Korean skincare coded, very Japanese skincare coded.
Yep, that's me.
This mask is definitely more popular among people who have dry skin, but when you feel the way that your skin feels afterwards, because I want you to use this too.
Okay.
It's like absolutely amazing.
So I was watching your video about Billie Eilish after concert skincare routine, and the way she was rubbing her makeup wipe on her face, you were like, oh my God. And I was like, I think that's how I look. And I'm like, I think I do a bit of a scrub. So if you have any recommendations for like how to be gentler.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the biggest thing for eye makeup, it's much better to just place it on the eye. Really? It'll gently eat away at the makeup and then just do like 1 or 2 wipes versus like the back and forth, because the eye area is like where the first signs of like aging and damage shows. So true. That's the biggest thing I'd recommend personally.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I squirted some on you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just started.
No, you're good. I really want to talk about, first of all, a short recap of our experiences and why I'm even, talking about Mormonism on my channel. To give a brief recap of my situation, I was raised in a very heavily Mormon-influenced environment. Religion was at the focal point of everything we did, talked about just constantly, and, just very much a big part of my childhood. I personally never really identified with Mormonism. It was more so something that I kind of was forced to be in rather than wanted to be in. And once I, came into adulthood and also came to terms with my own sexuality, I peaced out and said, you know what, I'm good. I'm over it. And if you guys want to hear more about both of our stories, actually, you should definitely check out the video on Alyssa's channel. We talked for 2 hours? Long time.
Hiram's story is, both very inspiring and some of the saddest aspects of modern day Mormonism, which is basically what it's like to grow up and be gay while also being in this very homophobic and very doctrinally, they don't even say gay in Mormonism, or at least many Mormons don't. They just call it same-sex attraction.
Like it's a disease.
Yeah. And it's not an identity. You wouldn't say I'm gay. You would say I have same-sex attraction. So it's a religion that's very explicitly against being gay. So we talked all about that.
We went deep. So definitely check out her video. I'll have it linked down below.
I also use this after I use...
Oh my gosh, what brand is that? I've never recognized that brand.
Skin Better Science.
Oh, the Skin Better Science Cleansing Gel. Great. That's perfect.
Yes?
Double cleansing.
Okay.
Yes, you're doing it right. I love it.
So I was raised also super Mormon. I always think back on my Mormon resume is how I think of it, because Mormonism has so many different things you're supposed to be doing from when you're a kid up till you're an adult, activity days.
And women's, seminary, serving a mission, baptisms for the dead, married in a Mormon temple, temple endowment.
Need I go on?
There's so much.
And I really did basically all of those things up till when I was about 23 is when I left. So my channel talks a lot about my personal experience, but also about the teachings of Mormonism, the history of Mormonism. Mormonism has evolved a ton. Started as basically like a polygamist cult, founded by Joseph Smith, and now somehow is the wealthiest religion in the world. Nobody really knows how much money they have, but estimated $230 billion.
230 billion with a B.
So that means that the Mormon Church has more money than Disney.
That is crazy.
Hiram's interview was posted today, so definitely go check it out.
Okay, faces cleanse. I'm gonna go. Well, we're both gonna go in with the mask. Okay, so
It smells so good.
it's like honey, right? I want to eat it.
Yeah, I do want to eat it.
You probably could, but I'm sure it'll ruin the fantasy of the face mask, to be honest. I think a lot of people are really interested in kind of like the culture around like beauty and perfectionism with Mormonism, because one of the main things that I see on social media and also here in person is like, wow, Mormons are so like beautiful. They're so like perfect. Their lives are so together. With the rise of like Mormon social media influencers as well, there's just this intense perfectionistic culture, and specifically around like beauty too. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, it's a very common stereotype, and I think it's very tied up in Mormon perfectionism and how really for men, I think that manifests in men making as much money as they can. Mormon men and Utah, I think, is a very entrepreneurial state. It's also the MLM capital of the world, multi-level marketing, pyramid schemes. I think everybody's looking to make some money when you're Mormon. Biggest house and highest number of children. Being excellent or having the best yard isn't even necessarily just about showing off or flexing. It's also kind of associated with how kind of perfect you are in the image of God. I mean, Mormonism is very focused on becoming like God. Mormons have taught in the past that Mormons could, after death, literally become gods in the afterlife.
It's wild.
You talk a lot about becoming more perfect, and I think that for women, often that does manifest in having the perfect body, having the perfect skin, having the perfect blonde hair, the blue eyes.
And also considering that, of course we live in a very patriarchal society, but Mormonism as a culture is like insanely patriarchal. There's a heavy emphasis on like women being the providers and the supporters to men only really having the leadership positions. And I feel like there's an intense level of perfectionism for women around physical beauty standards, because the goal is to be married. If you've heard of temple marriage, that's a big focal point of the church. And I think a lot of women feel this, and you can let me know if this is true, but feel this added pressure to be as physically desirable as possible to secure your spot in heaven, getting married, having children, all that. I don't know if you would say that's true.
Yeah, I mean, you're reminding me that when I went to BYU, there were girls who I knew in my ward who, there's a business building, most universities have like a place that students are learning to become major in business in some way, get an MBA, that kind of a thing. And they would go to that building because you're assuming, of course, that the guys that are studying there are going to be moneyed someday. And they would go there and do their makeup all cute and get all dressed up, and they'd go study in that building to try to like catch a man, basically.
Hey, you gotta admire the resourcefulness.
Yeah, that's some game
strategy. Yeah,
because girls, you're not really like ever pursuing. So you just have to put yourself in the position of being pursued. So like where guys can go and have a lot of game, the best way for a girl to like basically get pursued is to be pretty. Because she's not going to be doing the asking. The only way you're going to lure a man in is by being beautiful enough to warrant attention, you know?
That is insane. So like with you, what did that translation look like when it came to like your beauty routine and the way that you kind of like presented yourself? Did you internalize
very good at it? One thing too, I think that is wrapped up in this is wealth. There's like a certain subset of Mormons that are super wealthy.
Yeah, we weren't those.
We weren't those.
Yeah.
So I never really had the money in like I was basically paying my own way in college. I never had the money for like lash extensions and facials and like hair extensions. All of these things like that maybe other girls would have had money for from their parents. I feel like for me, I wasn't fully into the beauty competition of it all because I could never quite afford $300 dresses, the influencery type Mormon dress. Like some people could engage with that, but I was never able to. So some girls at BYU, they literally are getting asked on dates 3 times a day. Like they're going to like a breakfast date, they're going to like a lunch date, they're going to an
never.
And then they get married in 6 months to some random guy.
Yeah.
But like it's like they are pursuing marriage like it's a full-time job.
Yeah, which is such a huge thing in Mormonism culture. I love seeing like TikToks, and they'll interview these students like talking about like what's, you know, the right amount of time to get married after you start dating someone, and people are like anywhere from like a month to like 6 months is like the average response that I see. The dating culture is so intense, which for me, it's like, it's no wonder why there would be this intense expectation of just perfect beauty, perfect looks.
And it's almost like, to me, the quiet messaging of Mormon dating is often the older you are, the less desirable you are. Yeah. So I think a lot of those girls, you know, trying to get married freshman year, I knew some girls who were married at 18 after knowing a guy for 2 weeks. You know, they would basically know each other for 2 weeks, get engaged after 2 weeks, and probably married within a month or 2.
Gosh, I shudder.
I'm like, oh,
hearing that. I'm just like, oh my god, no, red
giving
flag,
me anxiety.
red flag.
And a lot of like Mormon leaders will brag about how short of a time it was. It's basically like a spiritual revelation. Like when you get married that fast, it's because God spoke to you and told you should get married. So it's like it's another flex. That's like the sooner you get married, the more God was kind of involved in this like conversion process to marriage.
My goodness, just because of a solid makeup routine. That's crazy. Okay, do you want to rinse this off?
Let's
Now we can
do
move
it.
on with the rinse. Okay, how does your skin feel? Does it feel
Super soft?
Yeah.
It feels like very moisturized too.
Okay, next up, what do you usually go in with?
So after I cleanse, I usually start with vitamin C.
Oh, okay. Okay, super cool.
Yeah.
If you want, so you know that vitamin C works best during the day?
I usually do day and night.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I do something in the morning and then I do it at night too.
Do you exfoliate your skin?
So I do sometimes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sometimes.
I use this.
Okay, that's not okay.
It's shitty. I think it's like $6 on Amazon.
Oh, dang,
it's
okay.
so cheap.
Can't beat that.
But also it smells really nice. I think it smells nice.
It does smell nice, but
Is it
me
too
personally, I'm so
overpowering?
anti-fragrance in the skincare. Well, I want to introduce you to a new type of exfoliation, because that's physical, where you're like physically scrubbing.
Yeah.
And then there's chemical, which is ingredients that will dissolve the dead skin cells. Way more gentle. Feels
I didn't
way
even know
nicer.
that was a thing.
Yeah, it's the best ever. And actually, I have my own serum, mandelic acid serum. This one is super gentle for like getting all the way deep in your pores, getting all the dead skin out. If you have breakouts, acne, oily skin, helps with that. So one thing that kind of like fascinates me about this beauty culture within Mormonism is that I feel like there's very clear teachings from like Jesus about not being overly flashy, you know, very strict teachings about like flaunting wealth, how you present yourself, God creating you in his own image, you know, all this kind of stuff. I wonder if there's almost like a cognitive dissonance between like the beauty practices and how you present yourself within the Mormon church and the teachings, but I don't know, do you think so?
I think it goes back to what kind of version of Mormonism you're hearing about, because I also feel like early when the state was being settled would talk about how industrious everyone was. Busy working bees is what they've always tried to embody, and I think that the other version of Mormonism is being rich. Like being industrious, having a side business. When I have like Mormon people who I'm still friends with, they're always starting their little side hustles. So like bouncy house rentals, vending machines, properties.
And I want to say, like, that's not true, but I literally am like always
You can, like,
doing
see
side
a
hustles
mile
and so
away.
entrepreneurial. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I
exactly.
really can't talk.
I know, I feel kind of the same sometimes because I'm like, I started my little YouTube channel.
Yeah, you're literally your own entrepreneur, business owner. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that version of Mormonism, which is very much about making money and building up God's kingdom, building up Zion, is another type of doctrine, which is like about industriousness. And I think that is kind of what is at the heart of the Mormon interest in wealth, is not necessarily that it's counter to Jesus talking about being humble. I think it is cognitive dissonance. They're viewing it as, I'm using my talents to glorify God. And so I think that is kind of like why Mormons are so wealthy and entrepreneurial, or at least that vein of Mormonism. And I think that when the woman is a little bit like of a trophy wife, you know, when her husband is like getting that money, she's like, I'm gonna treat myself, you know,
gosh, okay,
or like,
yeah.
I'm gonna glorify God with my perfection, with my long hair.
One fascinating thing that like I learned about is the prevalence of plastic surgery within Mormonism. And did you know that Salt Lake City has the
highest amount of plastic surgeons per capita?
Oh yeah, per
Yeah,
capita.
basically.
Yeah, like the most amount of plastic surgeons, which is mind-boggling because you think like Beverly Hills, Upper East Side, you know, New York City, but no, Salt Lake City. And even like reading interviews and looking into it, I did not realize how commonplace like plastic surgery is and how it feeds into like this intense perfectionism that's so prevalent within Mormonism. It's wild.
Which is, I think, what most people say when I talk about this, is that it's crazy that you can go under the knife for plastic surgery, but you can't drink coffee.
Yeah.
God, aka Mormon leadership and men, are totally okay with hot women, but they don't want coffee for some reason.
I'll add one on this. I don't care what anyone thinks. Going under the knife when you're made in God's image is okay unless you're trapped in the wrong body as a trans individual, and then it's like one of the most egregious sins that you can possibly do. It's like,
who is that? There was that guy at the RNC. Oh, Matt Gaetz.
Yes, with the eyebrow
his gender
lift
affirming
one.
care.
Yeah, attempting to be Bella Hadid.
It's kind of like we were talking about how the Mormon Church just released new guidelines for trans members of the church. One of the most atrocious rules is that if you are trans, you're just not allowed to interact with children in any way. So it's basically already obviously assuming they're predators. That a trans person, by the nature of being a trans person, is predator, is just straight discrimination and
so messed up.
Just homophobia, transphobia. There have been so many Mormon bishops. They've been in trouble with the law. They've been incarcerated for their predatory behavior on young girls. And the church does not have a single guideline about making sure that men who are hetero, because they've had this issue in the past, they probably shouldn't be working with children either, or have callings.
In fact, the church encourages it, because you know how many times I was alone in a room with a bishop, a grown 40, 50-year-old man, asking me deeply personal questions about my sex life, about sexual behaviors.
In one-on-one interviews starting at 8, but really ramping up at 12, they ask about virginity, masturbation. When I was 16, I was with a bishop, and he asked basically when I said, I want to confess something, it was just above the waist, over the clothing, touching. Which, like, no 16-year-old should have to talk to some random dude behind closed doors about just, like, kind of normal dating experiences of learning about being, you know, a teenager going into adolescence and adulthood. But he asked me, you know, specific, how long, where was it? He asked me who it was. At the time, you feel like, oh, he's helping me so much. And in hindsight, you realize that some random 50, 60-year-old man is asking you lots and lots of invasive questions. You're in a one-on-one interview as a minor about sex and sexuality.
I know. I'm like, I don't know how people can see that and be like, that's a perfectly normal, healthy, safe environment. Yet someone who identifies as trans or gay is automatically seen as a predator. It's just so crazy to me that that's even present and encouraged.
There's no logic to it. It's obviously just bigotry. It reminds me of, have you heard of phrenology? They used to like measure the skulls of different races and say like, according to science, this is why this race has a smaller brain because they're subhuman, basically. So they're kind of using science to prove racism, which is obviously was proved to be totally erroneous. But I feel like the church and members also engage in that type of like pseudoscience about why these rules need to exist. It's called apologetics, basically, where they're kind of backtracking and saying like, here's all these reasons why this rule needs to be in place, when really the answer to why the rule is in place is homophobia. Transphobia.
I mean, it's textbook confirmation bias, only finding pieces of evidence or reasons to support the viewpoint that you were always going to have and never going to change your mind about anyway. Reaching for whatever they can to support their already homophobic, transphobic, and prejudiced stances. So, oh gosh. Sorry, okay, let's move on with skincare. So now that we have serum on, I'm going to go in with a moisturizer. Okay. I don't know if you brought a moisturizer too.
I use this.
Oh, okay.
Peels Ultra Facial Cream. I'll use yours. I want to try it.
Okay, cool. This is from a new brand that just launched. I was actually just at their brand launch in New York. It's like a pH balanced skincare brand, and this one's like a nice gel cream. When you have oily skin, using a thick cream on your face will only accentuate the oil production that's going to happen anyway. Serums and cleansers are the best for helping to keep your skin balanced and basically signaling to your skin like, hey, no need to create this much oil. You're fine.
This is the face mask I usually use.
Oh.
Do you have any hot takes?
Yeah, it's the deep pore mask. I've used that one before. I'm at a point where clay masks I don't love just because I found that they can strip the skin even more and cause even more oiliness. That's why I like exfoliating face masks, because they just like get deep into the pore and push everything out versus the charcoal or whatever trying to like extract it out. But as long as you notice that it's not really drying out your skin or your skin getting red afterwards, I'd say it's fine.
How often do you suggest doing masks?
Like once a week.
Okay, that's
maximum.
what I do.
Oh, perfect. Way beyond. Okay, next up, do you use an eye cream?
I do, but it's probably not a good one.
Okay. Oh, Strivectin. Okay, yeah.
Yeah? I haven't had an outside source tell me if this is good.
Okay, nice. Well, I don't want to overwhelm your skin with too much, so totally up to you if you want to try one of my products or not. Okay, so this one's the Beauty of Joseon Korean skincare brand Revive Serum. This one has retinaldehyde, which is one of the most powerful anti-aging, brightening, dark spot reducing ingredients out there.
Okay.
Super popular on TikTok.
I know. I feel like every summer from when I was like 3 till I was 18, I probably got 20 sunburns every summer. I never really tan. I mean, I tan a tiny little bit, but mostly I just like burn over and over and over again.
I was gonna say, you have like really fair skin, it looks like, so it's so sensitive.
So great. Do you put it on your eyelids or just
not this one?
No, okay.
Yeah, just because
put it on my eyelids.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it is.
It's a one-time thing, it's fine. But yeah, any eye serums with like powerful active ingredients, you want to be careful putting on the eyelids, because that's very thin skin and can become like easily irritated. How do you like it?
It's nice. Yeah, it's very light. On the subject of plastic surgery, there's this website called Google Trends, which is super cool. You can go put in a search term and it will say where that term is being searched the most in the country. So if you go to Google Trends and look up boob job, Utah has the highest number of Google searches for boob job of all the 50 states. And the same with extensions, like hair extensions.
Really?
Utah. #1 search volume. Super interesting.
But you know what? The more and more I'm learning about this, the more and more it makes sense that there's a Housewives of Salt Lake City. Because I remember when that show first came out and I was like, what? This is so random. Like literally out of all the cities in the US, this would be the last place I would expect.
Yeah. Mormonism specifically has been having a moment for a while now. I think people are just very curious because Mormons seem so modern. When you interact with some beautiful content from your favorite Mormon influencer, it can feel so aspirational, something that, I mean, obviously like someone like Ballerina Farm has 15 million followers. I think when you interact with that type of content, it just looks beautiful and you don't maybe think much past it. And then I think if you dig beneath the surface of Mormonism, I think it's why people are so interested in documentaries, why Real Housewives of Salt Lake City has so much appeal, because you get, you know, the beauty and the cattiness maybe of like the other cities, but then you get the special like flavoring of Mormonism that gets sewn throughout that gives it such a very specific appeal.
Oh, that's a really interesting perspective. I mean, I'm curious, speaking of, you know, like the prevalence of Mormonism in like media and specifically social media right now, as an ex-Mormon, what are your thoughts on like how Mormon social media influencers are presenting themselves, if it's true to the church and church culture, if it's a net positive, net negative? Like, what are kind of your thoughts and opinions about that?
I find it to be a very frustrating conversation. First of all, I don't think anybody really can tell you what a Mormon, who gets to really be Mormon. Everybody seems to think their brand of Mormonism is like the right way to be, and that everyone else is not quite living correctly. I think too, the outrage around the swinging Mormon mommies is frustrating, because instead of being directed at, say, the trans policy we were discussing, or the damage done to members of the community who are gay, or the racist and sexist past and present, we're upset about like a small group of women who had a brief amount of internet fame and are continuing to capitalize on it. I struggle to engage with the commentary around it.
No, some productive. For sure, like what you were saying, like it's not being channeled where major systemic change could be made. It's a tricky topic because I feel very conflicted when it comes to it, because part of me is just like, excuse me, that is not what the church is teaching. You're claiming to be Mormon, but you're actively promoting lifestyle behaviors that are very explicitly against what the church says you should do. But then another part of me is just like, wait, what if this can help steer Mormon culture in a more positive direction, to where people are inclined to follow the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law?
Joseph Smith taught that you should teach correct principles and people will govern themselves. That's basically a totally direct quote from Joseph Smith. Teach people to be good and they'll make good decisions. Now Mormonism is, we're going to give 1,000 different rules. It's totally different from the idea that if you teach people good values, they'll make good choices. It's basically give a list of rules to follow and blindly follow them.
Yeah. You can't drink coffee, but you can have hot tea, but not if it's
brewed,
caffeinated, like brewed hot
like black tea or green tea.
But then you can have energy drinks. But you know, there's just so many tiny little rules, so many double standards.
And modesty and chastity and tithing and Sabbath day observance and having a calling.
Every aspect of your life has some level of control or some way that the church has a hand in it. And you know, when I see content creators doing this, I'm like, maybe this will like culturally push the church in a more positive direction. But then I'm also like, is this making the church appear to be a lot more cool and girl bossy and trendy and attractive, when at its core the church is very harmful, very discriminatory, very toxic in its nature? And is it making people more attracted to what is just a terrible organization? Like, I don't know.
I feel like it's worthwhile celebrating incremental changes made in the church, because ultimately lots and lots of people are still going to be raised in that religion, even though maybe people like us are like, yeah, I kind of wish it would just go away though. But the truth is, it's just not going away. It's very much still here, and there are lots of kids, lots of teenagers, lots of adults caught in this Mormon centrifugal force. And so if there's changes that mean better outcomes for those people, I'm still going to celebrate that, even though ultimately the root of the organization is something that I think should probably cease to exist.
Yep. And the reality is that unless the Mormon church decides to make some major systemic and doctrinal changes, I don't think anything's going to change the reality that so many people, specifically young people, are leaving the church just in mass hordes. Okay, do you want to do lip products? I'm going to give you one that my subscribers actually recommended to me. I don't know if I would love because it's tinted. So I don't know if you like a lip tint moment.
I do.
Okay, good. This is the Revolution Pro Rescue Lip Oil. And I'm going to use the Dionys Goat Butter Lip Mask, another lip product that you guys recommended to me. Thank you so much for coming on my channel. I really respect what you're doing. I know I talked about it in the other video, which you guys should definitely go watch and check out because we get really deep into our stories. But I find this topic so fascinating, and I know a lot of people do as well. And thanks for, you know, sharing your thoughts and getting vulnerable and shit.
I love it too, because I feel like it's so interesting. I mean, to me now, if I see a guy doing skincare, that, you know, I don't, it's kind of being out of Mormonism, where like men doing skincare is just like, I love it, you know, but I think it's so cool that you just even doing this channel is kind of your own version of what I'm doing, where like you are also making a statement like that is very contrary to what we were both raised with. The idea that a man cares about his skin.
It's so funny how like within Mormonism, but really I think within traditional religions, how men expressing femininity in any way is so looked down upon. And I think it's really attributed to just the intense sexism that's so present within Mormonism.
And even just, I think, men have internalized misogyny too, where like men have skin. It's not like ultra feminine to clip your nails and to cut your hair. The idea that like a man doing skincare to take care of himself is gay.
It's meditative self-care at the end of the day. And I also just view it in the same way that I'm like, do you wash your asshole? Yeah, you do. You know, do you use deodorant? Yeah, you do. Skincare is the same thing.
It's an extension of that.
It's taking care of yourself. It's being hygienic.
Except our faces are much more beautiful than our assholes.
Yes. Well, I can't relate. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. Thank you guys for watching. Please go check out her videos on her channel. They're incredible. If you're someone who was raised religious or you just are fascinated by the Mormon church, you are going to love the type of content that she creates. I really commend you for what you do. And be sure to check out the other video that we filmed together as well.
Yes, I'm so excited to get my skincare.
Yes, I know. I can't wait for you to try. You're going to love it. I promise you will. Yeah, and if you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you can see my videos every single week. And I will see you guys in the next one. Mwah.
Yay!